how to create an interactive dashboard here in Excel using only functions and formulas without need to use any type of pivot tables or pivot charts. Of course, whenever I change here, I choose here a different criteria. As you guys can see, all the charts, all the cards is going to be automatically changed with the new data that I selected. But we don't need to use pivot table or pivot charts in order to make a dashboard in Excel. And this is what this tutorial is all about, how to make a dashboard in Excel using only functions and formulas such as the Sumifs function and also the Averageifs function, the Countifs function, and a lot of different functions. So that way we're gonna learn how to make a dashboard in Excel and also how to use all those different functions in a practical way in order to make analysis here in Excel. So let's find out how can we create this dashboard here in Excel from scratch, step by step. So let's go. The first thing that you need to have in order to create a dashboard in Excel is a data set. And your data set doesn't need to be exactly like the one that I have here. You can use your own data set. You can use your own Excel file, your own spreadsheet. But anyway, if you want to download this spreadsheet right here, you can click on the link in the description down below, 100% free. Download the Excel file, and then you can have the same data set that I'm gonna use here to create my dashboard. But anyway, it doesn't matter the type of data set you have. If you have a different data set that I'm using here, one of the purpose of this video is to show how to create analysis in Excel using data. Okay, so if you have data, you can make analysis. Let's start understand the data set that we have. This data set right here is about a freight report. Okay, freight report delivery. So let's say I have a lot of different columns, such as the order date, the product SKU, that is a ID of the product, ID of the product, also the quantity, the box quantity for each one of the orders, the dispatch date, and also the delivery date, days to delivery, the state, the code, the freight cost, and also the payment method, credit card, digital wallet, and so on, so on. So let's say, now that we know the type of data that we have, it's important to try to think what type of analysis can we make through this data set. So let's say, I always like to start with a large information or with a large analysis, such as take a column and add up all the values, make an addition of all the values. If I take here, for example, the freight cost, I'm gonna have the total freight cost for all the orders that I have in this freight report. This can be my first analysis, for example. But if I want to make analysis more specific, I can continue to do it. So let's say, now that I already have here one analysis, that is the total freight cost, that is the addition of all the numbers that make up the column J, I can be more specific. Let's say, what is the total freight cost for the different states that I have here? I can do it. So this is another type of analysis. Another one is, let's say, the total freight cost for each one of the payments methods that I have here. Another type of analysis, the total freight cost for each one of the months that I have. All these different analysis we can make in any type of data in Excel. So let's say you have a sales report, a stock report, it doesn't matter. You can try to find a way to make analysis. Now that we already have just a hint of what we can do here through this data set, let's create another spreadsheet to add the analysis. Let me click here in this plus sign, and in this sheet 1, I'm gonna right click over the sheet 1 and then rename. I'm gonna give here the name to analysis or analysis. Okay, like this. The first analysis that I can start with here, or before it, let's say month. And just underneath the month, I can choose a month, such as January or February or March or on and on. And dependent on the month that I choose, all the data, all my analysis is going to be automatically changed for me. And that way we can create a dynamic and interactive dashboard here in Excel. Whenever I choose a different option, January, February, March, or whatever, all the data that we have in the dashboard is going to be automatically updated for us. Now I can start here with just a simple analysis that can be payment method, and in the next column I can type it in total rate, and as the payment method I have credit card, I also have digital wallet, and also direct debit. Okay, let me select a couple of columns here, B, C, D, E, till the column J maybe. And I'm gonna, in between one column and another, I'm gonna click, hold, and drag to the right to make sure the way all the columns are larger. The way we can see pretty much anything that is within each one of the columns. Now, in the cell right here, cell B11, I'm gonna start with a different analysis, such as the state, and in the next column, I'm gonna have the quantity of boxes, and then I'm gonna have, let's say, the average delivery time, and then the quantity of orders, and the last one is gonna be average freight cost. Okay, now we can start. Oh, by the way, we need to fill in here with all the states that I have, and I don't want to do it manually because I have a couple of different states here in my report, so it's gonna take me a long time to fill in with all the different states. So something that we can do here is first, using the unique function, but I know not all Excel versions has this function right here, unique. So instead of using this function, because maybe in your Excel version you doesn't have this specific function, I'm gonna do something different here. I'm gonna select basically everything but the header, so everything but the title to the end like this. Now I'm gonna copy everything that I selected here, Control C to copy everything, and then I came back here to analysis, and then Control V to copy and paste. But now something that we need to be mindful here is I have a lot of data that is just appears just more than one time, such as Alabama here and here again, and Florida here and here and here. So it's important here to read off the repetitive values, and to do it with everything selected, I can go to data or data, and then I can choose this option right here, remove duplicates. Click here. Excel is gonna pop up here a new window, and you can choose continue with the current selection, and then remove duplicates. Click here, click OK, OK, and yeah, that's it. So now we read off basically all the repetitive values that we had. Now we can start with the functions that we're gonna use in order to make the analysis. Just do not forget to click here in the flop disk or in the diskette to save your spreadsheet, okay? The total freight. How can we calculate the total freight using two different conditions, two criteria? First, the first one is the credit card or the payment method, and the second condition is going to be the month. So first and second, or second and first, it doesn't matter the order, okay? But here, what is important is we have two different criteria, the payment method and also the month. That way, I can use a sum function to add up all the values that I have, because I don't want to have here all the values, but just the values that match with the payment method and also with the month. That way, we can use here equal sign sum if function, but more specific, the sum ifs with the s in the suffix, okay, in the ending of the word, sum ifs. Now, the first thing that we need to select here, the first argument is going to be the sum range. The range where I want to have the addition of the numbers. And this range is right here in the report. Let's say I want to have an addition of all the freight costs, but column with the criteria that I said before. Let me select here this entire column, column J, okay? And then I'm going to press here in the formula bar, Jopa. Now my criteria range number one, or my first criteria range, it can either be, let's say, the month or the payment method. I'm going to stick with the second option, payment method, okay? I'm going to select here everything, and then comma. Now I need to choose my first criteria, and as I choose as the range the payment method, we need to select here in the analysis the payment method, that is the credit card, the first one, okay? And then comma. Now my second criteria range is going to be the month, January, February, and on and on. But here we have a problem because there is no columns with such information, January, February. Okay, I know that the order date is actually kind what we need, because here I have January 1st of 2024, January 2nd, and on. But Excel doesn't know that this is January. We need to have the same information to match the specific word January or February or March, and we doesn't have it here. But a solution is, let me select here the column L. In a moment, we're gonna have here the perfect solution for it. Okay, so the column L, and then comma, and my second criteria is gonna be, let's say, here in analysis, the month right here. And we need to be mindful here because I don't want this range right here be dragged down. I want this range stay fixed in this right position right here. Okay, so I need to lock this reference. And to lock a reference in Excel, I can select the entire range like this, and then I can press the F4 key to lock the reference. Close parentheses, and then enter. Here we got the first result, but of course we got here a 0 because we doesn't have yet the column L with the correct information. And here we need to add a helper column, let's say the way, that is the month. Okay, I can actually use a different color here for the background of the cell to just highlight the cell, and that way I'm gonna know that it's just a helper column. And as the month, I want to extract just the months of the dates that I have. So it doesn't matter to me if it's January 1st of 2024. The thing that does matter is January, okay? And then February, March, we need to extract the month. And to do it, we can use here =, text function. Text function. Double click here, 1, 2. As my first argument, the value, I'm gonna use the date, the first one here, and then comma, and the test format is gonna be open quotations mark, and then MMM, 3 times the letter M, close quotations, close parentheses, and then enter. Here we're gonna have the first month, January. If you double click here in the down right corner of the cell, you can make sure all the rows now contain the same function. And as you can see here, we're gonna have March, April, May, June, July, and on. And we're basically done with the first analysis. Now here we got the correct results. Let me select here all the values and then home, and change the format of the numbers and use dollars as the number. Like this. It's much better. Okay, so the first analysis is done, or analysis is done. Now we can move on here and create a couple of different analyses. That is the quantity of boxes, the average delivery time, and all the other analysis that we typed in before. Let me click here in the flop disk to save this spreadsheet. And the quantity box is going to be something similar to what we did before. That is the Sumif function. =SumIfs function. But this time, instead of using the payment method as a criteria, we're going to use the state as a criteria. And still, we're going to use the month as a criteria too. The sum range now is going to be different. It's going to be, let's say, the box quantity. I can select here the entire column D, comma. Let me click here in the formula bar. The criteria range number 1, the first one. The first one can be the month. Let's change a little bit. Select here, and then comma. My first criteria now is going to be my month right here, okay? And then don't forget, be mindful, because we need to press the F4 key to lock the reference, comma. The criteria range number 2 can be the state, okay, like this, comma. And my second criteria is going to be the name of the state itself. Enter, okay. So for the first row here, Alabama, we have 4 different boxes in the January month. Let's bring it down, click, hold, and drag down to make sure now all the rows contain exactly the same function, and we're done. Let's see if it's working in a practical way. So January, okay, it's working, but and what about February? Enter, okay, yeah, everything's working, and as you guys can see, everything changes automatically when I change here the month. Average delivery time. Here we cannot use the Sumif function because as I'm talking about average is average. It's not the addition, okay? Of course, you can, it's an addition divided by the quantity, okay? But here, instead of using the Sumifs function, we can use the Averageifs, =, and then Averageifs, double click here, 1, 2, The average range now is going to be the days to delivery right here, column G, comma, and following through the formula bar, the first criteria range can be, let's say, the month, comma, and my first criteria can be here in analysis, the month, F4 key to lock the reference as we learned it before, comma, the criteria range. Now it's going to be the second one, okay? It's going to be the state, comma, and the second criteria is going to be the state's name, Alabama, the first one. Close parentheses and then enter. Okay, here we got the delivery time, the average. Let me bring it out, and yeah. As you can see, there's a lot of big numbers right here because there's a lot of decimal places. And maybe we can use just 2 decimal places for everything here. Let me select all the area, all the cells where we're gonna input a function, and then home tab, and I can decrease the decimal places here to show just fewer decimal places like this. Actually, I want you to have 2 decimal places like this. Now let's go to the quantity of orders. And here we have something different because it's not an addition, it's not an average. It's basically, I need to count the quantity of rows that I have because each one of the rows represents a different order. So row number 1, F, order number 1, the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, and on and on. And how can I manage to count the different rows that I have here following a criteria, that is the state and also the month? To do it, we can have equal sign the Countifs function, okay? Because we have 2 conditions, so Countifs. Double click here. My criteria range, here we have something different because as we saw in the Sumifs function or in the Averageifs function, we always need to select first the addition range or the average range and things like this. But here as the Countifs function, we don't need to select the counting range, like let's say that way. Just the criteria range, and then the criteria, the second criteria range, and the second criteria, and on. Because we're gonna count here the criteria itself. So let's say I want to count the quantity of times that Alabama state appears in the list, and well, with another criteria that is the February. Okay, so I don't want to count all the Alabamas, all the times that Alabamas appear in the list, but just the times that Alabamas appear in the same row as the February month. Okay, so 2 conditions. The criteria range first is gonna be the state, maybe, and then comma. My first criteria can be the state, of course, comma. Now the second criteria range is gonna be the month, like this, comma. And the second criteria is gonna be the month right here. F4 key, do not forget that. Close parentheses, oh sorry for that. Enter, and yeah, here we got our result. Just one more analysis to go, that is the average freight cost. And to do the average freight cost, as the name suggests, we can use the average function again. So equal sign, Averageifs, double click here, 1, 2. The average range now is going to be different than before. It's going to be about the cost, like this one right here, okay? Column J. And then, comma. The first criteria range can be, let's say, the month, comma. And now we're going to select here the month, press the F4 key to lock the reference, comma. The criteria range, the second one is going to be, let's say, the state right here, comma. And the second criteria is going to be the name of the state. Enter. Here we got click, hold, and drag down. And yeah, that's it. Something that we can change here is, let me select everything and use the number as currency, as the $sign, like this, just to this last row right here. And we're done with the analysis. Click in the flop disk to save the spreadsheet, and we're done with the analysis. Now, in order to finish here this dashboard, we need to create the dashboard itself, the charts, and all the cards that's gonna show the data. So let's click here in this plus sign and add a new sheet. Right click, rename, and now it's gonna have a name that is dashboard. In the dashboard, I always like to start to make some changes in the size of some columns because it's better to have the positioning of the area of the charts that we're gonna have. So let's say the column A right here, I'm gonna right click and then column width, I'm gonna change to 2, click OK. Another one can be the column P, right click, column width, with 2, enter. And the last one is gonna be the column G, right click, column width, 2, and then enter. That way it's gonna be much better to make the placement of all the areas that we're gonna have. So let's say one area is gonna be like this, another one is like this, just leaving the column P or all these small columns blank, okay, without any shape, let's say that way. Now talking about shapes, let's start with the first one. Insert, pictures, or sorry, shapes. And then here I can select the first shape that I'm gonna use. I always like to use a rectangle or a rectangle, but with rounded corners. I can click here and then I can click, hold, and drag in the screen to choose the area that I like to use here to make the placement. Just a little bit down like this, and yeah. And of course, the size and the placement of the areas of the charts is going to be dependent on the size of your monitor, okay? So you can use your own, you can do it in your own manner. Let me click here in this yellowish little circle, click, hold, and drag out to make sure it's not that round, my rectangle, just a little bit like this. Now we're gonna need to make some trick here. I'm gonna click in the shape and then I'm gonna press 2 buttons here in the keyboard, the Control key and the Shift key. Click, I'm gonna click over the shape now, click, hold, and drag down. That way I can duplicate this shape right here. I'm gonna do basically the same thing again, but that way placing another one to the right and now another one underneath that one. Okay, like this. Now we have 4 different areas here. Another area that I'm gonna create is here to the left, like this. This one is gonna be a little smaller and just a little bit more smooth here in the corners, like this. Control Shift again, move it up like this and like this. These little ones is where we're gonna place basically it's gonna be the cards where we're gonna show the data that we have here in the payment method. Okay. Something maybe that I can do here is make this ones a little round, like this, rounder. Okay, now it's better. And yeah. Now the last touch here is in the cell B2, I'm gonna type in month, and then I'm gonna have January, February, and on and on. But instead of manually typing in the month, because I don't want to manually type in the month, I want to have here a list or a data validation. When I click here, I have access to a lot of different options. So I'm gonna move here the screen to the right, and I'm gonna create here basically a little list that is January, February, and on and on. Let me select both, click, hold, and drag down, because that way I make sure Excel continues the sequence for me. January, February, March, and on and on. Now we can use these values right here to replace the cell C2, and instead of manually typing in the month, now we're gonna have access to the list. Data tools, click here, data validation, and instead of allow any value, I'm gonna allow list. Click here as source in this up arrow, move the spreadsheet a little bit to the right to have here our list, select everything, down arrow, and then OK. Now we can come back here and we can see that our list is already working. But something to be mindful here is, in order to make dashboard dynamically change the data, whenever we change the option of the month, January, February, and on, we're gonna need also to, whenever I change here in the dashboard, the month, also here in my analysis, the month needs to change. So let me read it off this value and then equal sign. Now we're gonna bring as result right here the value that we have in the dashboard right there. So equal sign, and then here in the dashboard I can click over this C2 cell right here. Actually I can't not click here because Excel is not allowing me to click here. So let me click here in a cell nearby, and then with the keyboards, with the arrow keys here in the keyboard, I can move it to the left or whatever. I can just move around the selection like this and then enter. Yeah, we're done. So whenever now in the dashboard we change here the month, we're gonna also have the change happen right here. Let me save the spreadsheet to make sure we save, and then let's make some changes in the areas. I'm gonna start with this large one: shape format, shape outline, no outline, shape fill, white, or actually shape outline, black, shape effects, shadow, and this first option right here. And I don't need to create the same design to all the different shapes that I have, because I can select this area right here and then home tab and double click here in the format painter 1, 2, and then select everyone else. Okay, I done. Now we can read off these guidelines that we have. Let's click here, view, guidelines, and that's it. So it's much better. It's much, there's a much more clean look now. Let me select here both, home tab, put everything in bold, and align everyone in the middle, like this. Yeah, we're done. Now let's move on to create here the charts that we're gonna use. As the charts that we're gonna use, let me come back here to the analysis, and I actually gonna create 4 or 5 different charts. The first one is gonna be this range right here, and then second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one. Each one of the different analysis that we built here, we're gonna have a different chart. Let's start with the first one. I'm gonna select all the first analysis that I have, and then home, insert. Let me select a chart. It's gonna be, let's say, a pie chart or a donut chart, because now with the pie chart we can compare by the size of each one of the slices which one of the payment methods has, let's say, more total value. And of course we can also compare by the numbers itself, but I think the chart is a much better option to visualize the data in a faster and also in a easier way. Okay, let me select the chart, right click, cut, go here to the dashboard, right click in any cell and paste. Let me move and drag this chart just over this square area right here. Okay, and yeah, later we can change the format of the chart and make all these aesthetics change. Okay, now let me select the first 2 columns to create another chart, and this one can be, or all the other charts can be a column chart. Select both columns, insert, and then here in charts, column chart. Okay, I'm gonna leave this chart just right here underneath. And now I need to have another chart for the average delivery time. But how can I select the first column and also the third one? To do it, I'm gonna need to first select the first column and then press and hold the Control key and select the another range that I'm gonna need to use. Insert the same chart as before, the column chart. Let me bring it down. Okay, now the quantity order like this, and also the state. And again, insert column chart. Okay, and the last one, the average freight with the state. Insert column. Okay, now we're gonna select here. I'm gonna press and hold the Control key to select all the different charts that I have, and then I'm gonna right click, cut, go to the dashboard itself, right click, and then paste. Now we're gonna place each one of the individually charts above each one of the areas. Okay, I done to adjust here the displacement of each one of the charts. Now something that is very important here is to read it off the background and the grid line or the outline of all the charts. The first one is gonna, just for an example, select the first one, format, shape outline, no outline, shape fill, no fill, like this, to make the chart transparent, and that way we can see the area underneath the chart, because we create the area, the shape, to display the chart itself, to have a better background instead of this box one that Excel gives to us. So we need to make all the charts transparent in order to make sure we can see this background that we created. Okay, so read it off all the backgrounds of all the charts. I done, and now the next move is to read it off these grind lines that I have. Read it off, and also these values to the left. this y-axis. So select everything, read it off. Here too, okay. Here too, okay, and okay. With this done a chart right here, let's start with this chart. Let me click in the legend and read it off everything. And we are almost done. Of course, we're gonna change the layout of each one of the charts that we have. But before we do it, let's make these cards working. So save the spreadsheet, click here, let's say, or before we insert anything, let me click in the first card right here. I'm gonna click in the formula bar, equal sign, and this card is gonna bring as result exactly the same value that I have here in the analysis in the credit card. I'm gonna click here, okay, and yeah, that's it. The second one is gonna do something similar, but it's gonna bring as result the digital wallet. And the third one is gonna bring as result, let's say here, the direct debit. Okay, now let me select the first one and just change the layout. I'm gonna move it to the bottom and also move to the right. I'm gonna increase the font and use maybe 32, put it in bold, and yeah, that's it. Now I'm gonna double click here in the format painter, 1, 2, select the second one and the third one. In order now to make it easier to realize what is all about these 3 different cards, we need to type it in here. Let's say credit card, and then the digital wallet, and on and on. I'm gonna click insert, text box, and I'm gonna place text box just right here in this area. Okay, this first one maybe is credit card. Let me select everything, home, centralize everyone, put in bold, and increase the text font to 18. Shape format, shape outline, no outline, shape fill, no fill. Now we're gonna, using the same method as before, Control Shift and bring it down like this. And one more time, like this. The second one is gonna be, let's say, digital wallet. So let me copy and paste because it's easier to me, okay? Copy and paste, okay? And the third one is gonna be direct debit. Control C, and then here, Control V. Okay. Let me just make the number a little bit smaller. So 30, 20, 28, I think it's about 20, 28. And also here, 28. Okay. And also the text, 16, 16. And also here, 16. Okay, we're done with the cards. Now we can move on to the charts. Let's say this first chart right here, done it. I'm gonna click in the pie here in the slicers or the slice, and then chart design. I'm gonna choose a different designing right here. Maybe this one, style 8. I think it's look good. Let me read it off this legend that just appears with the new style, and also the background of the chart has come back. Format, shape outline, no outline, shape fill, no fill. Yeah. Let me double click here in the values, in the numbers, 1, 2, in the percentage, and with, or right click, format data label. With this new right window that's gonna pop up for you, you can also choose here, category name, because that way now you have access to each one of the categories names: direct debit, credit card, and digital wallet. Now let me just click, let's say, in the slicers, and in the slice, and done it whole size, I'm gonna use 40, and done it explosion, I'm gonna use 3%. Yeah, I think it's good. Let me click here in the fill align, fill, solid fill. And let's say the first one, this can be a blue one. So I'm gonna choose here a different blue. You can click also in colors, more colors, and I have access to a lot of different options. I'm using here a custom color, and if you want to use the same color as I'm using here, you can copy this code right here, 3399FF. Click OK, and that's it. Now the second one, I'm gonna use a type of red, and if you want to copy the same color, you can have this code right here, FF7C80. Okay, and yeah, the digital wallet right here now, this slice, this last one is gonna be with a greenish color. And if Again, if you want to use the same color as I'm using here, 66FF99, like this. Now let me click in the text, Home tab, put everything in bold, and increase the font size to 11. Now something that I can adjust here is click just in the hollow of the donut chart and make it a little bit larger, like this, and also like this. That way it's much easier to see the data. Now I'm gonna click in the first column chart that I have, and again, I'm gonna do it for all the different charts that I have. The gap width, I'm gonna use 150%, okay? 150%. Enter. The second one, I'm gonna do the same thing, 150%. The third one, the same thing. And the fourth one, 2. Now I'm gonna click here, Effects, Shadow. I'm gonna use the first option of shadow for all the charts. Like this one 2, and the first one 2. Okay, now it's much better. And by the way, let me select here this pie chart or this donut chart, and also I'm gonna add a shadow to the effect of this chart. Okay, now with this first column chart right here, I'm gonna make some change in the colors, and that way I'm gonna click here in the fill and line and solid fill, and I'm gonna choose, let's say, blue color. And here in the border, solid line, and I'm gonna use the same blue. But instead of using the width as 0.75, I'm gonna use as 10. Enter. That way we're gonna have a much better looking chart. I'm gonna do something similar here to this chart underneath, but instead of using, of course, blue again, I'm gonna use another column, maybe head or whatever. The width is equal to 10, and then fill is the same color, solid fill, and the head one. Now there's another one here. I'm gonna use maybe the yellow color with the yellow background, the yellow border. The width is equal to 10. And this last chart right here, in the top right part of the background, it's gonna have a greenish color. And also here in the background, the same color. You can close, and yeah, our dashboard is almost done. Don't forget to save, click in the diskette. And whenever you change here the month, as you can see, the entire dashboard is gonna be automatically changed for you, and you're gonna have access to a whole different data. Something that is important and we are missing here is all the charts, the columns one. We actually can compare each one of the categories by the size of the column. But I think it's also important to have, let's say, the value just above each one of the columns, because that way we have more specificness from which one of the data or the categories stands for. So let me click, and I'm going to do this process for each one of the charts. The columns one, chart design, add chart element, and then data label, outside end like this. And I'm going to select the values, home tab, increase to 12, and put everything in bold to make it easier to see. I'm going to do the same process for all the charts, okay? I done here with the values on top of each one of the columns. And the last step, let me click here in the categories, text, home tab, and I change the font size to 8. I'm going to do it for all the charts, because that way we're going to have more area in the chart itself. And finally, we're done. So this is our dashboard here in Excel. Whenever I change here the month and choose another one, the entire dashboard is going to be automatically updated for me. And that way we're done. So this is how we can create a dashboard here in Excel using formulas and functions without the necessity to use pivot tables or pivot charts. We can do everything using only formulas and functions in Excel. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and of course you can use this dashboard right here into your presentations, into your reports, to actually analyze the data, because now we have a lot of different options to make analysis, such as the payment method. We can compare here everything, and also the total freight. We can compare by the slice size, each one of the methods, and also the percentage that each one represents on total, and also the average freight cost for each one of the states. each one of the average delivery time for each one of the states, and also the quantity of box, and also the quantity of orders. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and of course, if you have any questions or any suggestions to the next ones, let me know, comment down below, and I see you tomorrow as every day has a new video. I see you there.